Hi, and so I was initially going to go ahead and skim through the owner reviews of City Feps, but I'm reconsidering that totally now. And I think I should go through and very slowly, one by one, read them for anybody that has been out there desperately, frantically searching and wondering what the hell is going on. The only thing I could say before I start the reviews, um, to say would be that you can fool some of the people some of the time, but you can't fool all of the people all of the time. And owners are close knit. And once a scam has been ran, it becomes known. And from that point, any of the holders are now holding the bag for any fraudulent or suspect business done on the behalf of the entity, which is City Feps Housing Voucher. And so I'm going to take my time with this for the fact that it's been personally, impactful to me in my life and on my journey. So I am missing many rental checks. Is that the first one? Hold on. Okay. So never accept a tenant with a City Feps housing voucher. I had a tenant who was very nice, I must say. Now, my problem wasn't with the tenant, but at the same time, it was. The tenant moved from one property to another with me, and I haven't received over $14,000 from City Feps due to them stating that the tenant did not let his home base know that he was moving. The exact same thing happened to me, guys. And let it be noted that I did let them know. Now, that information was not true because I have all documentation stating that the tenant moved from one property to another with me. I even received an approved for renewal at the new address for the tenant from HRA. I have been dealing with the situation for over a year and I've had no choice but to evict the tenant. I spoke to numerous people to try to get some help, and every time I call, no one knows what to do. I even spoke to Catholic home-based charities, as I did. And the person I spoke to argued with me on the phone and told me that the case is closed and hung up on me. The exact same thing happened to me, guys. And so the second review. I made a deal with City Feps and they are not paying the rent. Being a landlord in New York City is extremely hard. It is very hard to evict a tenant, and the pandemic has made it almost impossible. I rented to a person who had the City Feps voucher, and I thought it was a solid thing to do because City Feps was paying the rent. The tenant told me that they closed her public assistance case and that City Feps stopped paying the rent. I made a deal with City Feps and they are simply not paying the rent. I have no idea what the tenant public assistance case has to do with City Feps paying the rent. I advise any landlord to not accept the program. They will stop paying the rent without warning. The program absolutely doesn't care about the tenant, and they definitely don't care about the landlords. Now, allow me to give you guys a forewarning. I'm very, very low on data, and so if the video cuts short, I will do my best to possibly delete some videos, pictures, to be able to do a part two. If not, I'm going to do it as soon as I'm able to. Okay, the third review is I'm missing many rental checks. Do you start to see a pattern here? I should have known that something was wrong with the Feps program when they gave me a bonus check of $4,300 if I rented to the tenant. After the 6 months of renting, pay attention to the time frames. To the tenant, Feps stopped sending me checks. There is no one I can call or talk to about the problem. I talked to the tenant about it and she is doing nothing. I am missing many rental checks and I can't wait for the eviction ban to stop so I can start the eviction process. The next review, I'm losing track of what number. I no longer want to be a landlord in NYC. I have several rental properties and some of my tenants have Section 8 and Feps. I've had nothing but trouble with the Feps tenants. Feps stopped paying the rent because the tenant no longer qualified for Feps due to their income. The tenant is also not paying me any rent because they expected Feps to continue paying the rent. And I am now in the process of evicting the tenant, which is going to be a nightmare in NYC. Once my rental properties are empty, I will never take another voucher tenant. You see, people, the continuity showing the owner's bridges being burned, and you literally your perspective starts to shift, and you start to empathize with the owner. My property is in foreclosure because of FEPS, the next review. This review, by the way, was posted on December 13th of 2020, and I'm going to try to not name names even though there is no name listed. I have been trying to get help with the person I rent in an apartment in the home that I reside. When I rented the apartment, I was under the impression that she had the FEPS rental voucher that would be paying the rent. I thought that was the terms of the lease. The FEPS program hasn't paid me any money for months and I can't evict her. I don't want to evict her, but if I am not receiving rental money, the FEPS said that they will pay what I'm supposed to do. I am disappointed in Mayor de Blasio for creating a program that is borderline fraudulent and actually contributing to the homeless problem. With the repetition of it, it does appear to be systematic and by design to burn the owners and keep the tenant in a perpetual suspension, perpetual cycle of homelessness. If it was one owner or two, maybe. If my story wasn't exactly the same, maybe. But that the program in and with of itself and as a whole is a scam. And if you have it, get rid of it if you are able. I would avoid accepting a FEPS tenant. I'll read this last one. This was December 1st, 2020. I rented one of my apartments to a FEPS tenant, and from day one, there were nothing but a headache. Also, FEPS doesn't pay the rent on time. I got different checks throughout the month. And from my experience, a FEPS tenant may be a class of person that won't be a good tenant. Evicting them would have been a nightmare, so I paid the tenant $1,000 to leave the apartment, and they accepted. This is what it has come to in being a landlord in New York City. And it just goes on and on. But what I'm going to fast forward to here was an anonymous person, is just what I'm going to call them. And they gave a synopsis of the program in its entirety that just sealed the deal for me. Let's see. The problem here is too many of these agencies keep trying to figure out ways to milk the system by prolonging the stay of these residents, especially the ones who are trying their best to get out. This article didn't address the staff, the purposely messing up paperwork over and over again and still keeping their jobs only to do it all over again to another client? Or how about looking into these facilities and the people who handle the paperwork? Yes, there is human error, but there are also the only patterns in the inefficiency. We know where the problems are, but they're never fixed. And we continue to let this happen. But who's handling the payments again? Why are there not automatic payments? How can payments be late if the financial institutions just schedule payments? Why is it that the payments are not going out? It is 2022. Private corporations never have this issue. So why does NYC agency always have an issue with payments? Even in my agency, they constantly delay or mess up payments that should take days. That should take days, and it could take weeks or months. Incompetency with the extra helping of no oversight, or incompetence in the oversight. Now, we are talking about people's self-respect and having some place to call their home. And we act like we don't know why this is happening. It's the way that NYC agencies give me one moment, guys. How about automation? I'm just going to read it back. This is a tragedy. Staffing is one issue. Competent staffing and training is another. I work in the city, inefficiency seems to be the thing to do, to claim that they need more people. It's about efficiency and competence. I'm going to read that again. This is a tragedy. Staffing is one issue. Competent staffing and training is another. I work for the city, and if inefficiency seems to be the thing to do, to claim that they need more people. It's about efficiency and competence. How about automation? Problem number one, paperwork won't get lost if there's an electronic paper trail. How about having classes to educate the residents of the shelter about the process? That can be done by trying videos on demand on applications and website portals, or a portal with this information for all languages to tell them about the financial breakdown and requirements for apartments. You don't need staff for that, just the video on demand. The problem here is too many of these agencies keep trying to figure out ways to milk the system by prolonging the stay of these residents, especially the ones who are trying their best to get out. This article didn't address the staff that purposely mess up checks on behalf of her tenants. See, I have all type of screenshots here, but I'm hoping that you guys get the gist of what I'm saying. Now, if it's too late and you're already, too deep in it and you can't switch out your program, to know this, that if you choose an apartment or a house in a neighborhood where the price is highly or lower differential from the whole neighborhood, that can get your application rejected. Also, things like, they increased the amount of the City FEPS housing voucher to $19.45, if I'm not mistaken. But the catch, and there's always a catch, is that is if utilities are included. If they're not, it knocks it down to 18 something, meaning you would have to come out of pocket for your own utilities and the like. And that's illegal on the program, to be paying anything out of pocket. And so you have to go into your interview process with a lot of technicality, a lot of knowledge, and your ducks in a row. What else? Now, in the next video, I'm going to discuss ways that you can get over the 3 times the amount of the rent, in addition to having not so good of a credit score. This information took me a long time to find, guys, and I just want to gift it to the world, to save somebody a lot of the distress and what I've been through, to make their road smoother, okay? And so I'll see you guys for part 2. FYI, I've switched my Cash App to match my new screen name, which is Divine Majesty. So it's $ Divine Majesty 11. So $DIVINE MAJESTY 11, if you guys care to share. And until part 2, take care.